Hey everyone, it's Luke here, sitting at our brew pub at 91 Biltmore, downtown Asheville. This is where it all began. We were a few owners looking to open a little brew pub in Asheville, and it turned out to be something quite a bit more. But the goal, the dream of Wicked Weed was to have a brew pub to sell beer in downtown Asheville. We've come a long way since 2012 when we opened this place, but this still remains kind of the heartbeat of our company. So I'm sure one of the first things that's on everybody's mind, if you're not familiar already, is where do you come up with the name Wicked Weed? Well, you can imagine we've got 5 owners, and coming up with a name with 5 very opinionated people was not the easiest process. But as we were coming up with all these options for a different name, we had nixed Wicked Weed off the list very early. And Rick Guthie, the very last hour we were trying to make a decision that day, he looked back through our list of names and he saw on the list a name with an X through it that was Wicked Weed, and he asked Walt, he was like, you know, what's the story behind that? So Walt went into talking about, you know, that we were looking into the history of hops, and we came across this story of King Henry VIII. He was kind of a bad dude. He tried to outlaw the use of hops in beer. He had some vested interest in some other crops that he wanted to use for spicing instead of hops in his region. He proclaimed that hops were a wicked and pernicious weed that was ruining beer. So after Rick heard that quote, he said, that's our name, that's what we got to do. So when you come into our brew pub, this building was built back in the 1930s, and it actually was an old gas station originally, so it's a far cry from that now. We came in and you know, gutted the place, but we wanted to keep the soul of it. So there's a lot of exposed brick, there's wood, kind of cool architecture to it already, so we didn't want to screw that up basically. We came in, gutted it, but kept the raw, earthy brick and wood characteristics of the building. Denise Guthie and Rick, you know, really dove in with some designers to make this place really have an amazing feel. When you enter the front door of the brew pub, you're met by our huge chalkboard, and chalkboards are a big part of Wicked Weed. I think we've got like 8 here on this one property, but you know, it's a great way for us to showcase all the different beers that we make. We didn't want anything that was static here. We wanted it to feel like it was an ever-changing experience. Every time you came in, you'd get something new. And so we take that from our beer all the way to our food. We seasonally are rotating through local ingredients, working with local farmers as much as we can. Everything from bison burgers to kimchi fried chicken to steak tartare is on the menu here, and our chef as well as all of our cooks, they just crank it out here. Our brew pub is actually downtown Asheville as a whole, actually #2 tourist destination right now behind the Biltmore House. So we get a huge amount of visitors that come through here every year and get to experience what Wicked Weed is all about. I remember very early on walking in this building and thinking this place is way too big. It's gonna feel empty all the time. Thankfully we have enough space as we do because we're always packed out here. But a lot of people don't even realize there's a downstairs. You know, having a 2-story building really gave us a unique opportunity to give you 2 very separate experiences when you come into Wicked Weed. The upstairs experience is more about that dining experience. You come in and the tables are laid out really beautifully set. There are bartenders right there behind the bar. You can see into the kitchen. But when you make your way downstairs, you kind of enter into a whole nother world. You know, you turn the corner and you're met by this huge chalkboard that's surrounded by 200-year-old chestnut. You know, you've got barrel staves all over the place. You see the brewery right in front of you, and you're met by 28 different beers downstairs that are giving you this dynamic experience of any sort of beer that you want to have. The downstairs at Wicked Weed, that's where I hang. It's an awesome place for the brewers and a great opportunity for you to really get to experience what a brew pub is all about.
Hey everyone, I'm Lem, head brewer here at the pub. I just wanted to introduce myself and talk about the pub a little bit itself. This is a pretty standard 15-barrel 2-vessel system. Of course, we're making beer according to normal processes, but what's really unique about the experience here is our ability to take advantage of our size, which is pretty small, and the volume that we pump out each year. Almost 750,000 pints of beer are sold through our draft lines here. Almost all of it gets made here on this small system. While we have 12 standard fermentation vessels, we do use an open fermenter, a very traditional method for brewing Belgian ales, and saisons. Our brew house is open to the customers. They can talk to us, they can interact with us during the brew day and really see what's going on. For me, as a brewer, I love the fact that the customers are drinking the beer 20 feet away from where we make it. So it's, a lot of interaction about what they're drinking, what we make, and it's really instant feedback. It's a pretty well-oiled machine, I would say. It's operated by myself and 2 other brewers. If you think about 750,000 pints a year made by 3 guys, we can each take credit for 250,000 pints made a year. So it's a pretty small but a pretty large brew pub in its own right. So variety is one of the things we emphasize here at the pub. It's a variety of raw ingredients and raw materials. It's a variety of techniques that we often like to try. Sometimes traditional, sometimes new techniques. Since the brewery's inception, we've done over 500 different recipes here. Last year alone, I know we turned out about 1,200 different batches of beer, and I think between 300 and 350 of them were totally unique. Looking at the variety of what's on tap right now and what we like to drink and would like to drink in the future. So if you ever get down to Asheville and visit us here at the pub, we hope you do. Come by, talk to us. We'd love to share a pint with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe Pawelek, the production manager for Wicked Weed Brewing's Clean Side production facility. We're at our production facility today where we're going to go through some of the things that make our beer stand out from the rest of the beers that you've tried. Some of the main things that make our beer stand out are our quality standards. Now to us, quality starts literally from the ground up. Everything that you see is clean, organized, and cared for to make sure that our end product is perfect. Here at our production facility, we have 24 fermentation tanks and bright tanks, and with that many things happening at once, it's essential that we're very organized and that we communicate. We're running from 6 a.m. till about 5 p.m., and we've got about 18 employees that work here right now. Throughout the day, problems come up, quality issues come up, and we have to work together as a team to really figure out what we're going to do to solve all these problems. A lot of the culture that revolves around Wicked Weed is solving problems. We all started off home brewing, and we've worked our way up to a production facility that consistently puts out world-class beer. This is our scheduling board, and this is where we have every active fermenting beer placed out on a grid so that we don't skip a beat. Here you can see we've got everything laid out for roughly a month, and then we've got all of our fermentation logs here for tracking, and over here we've got our bright tanks. So if there's ever a change, what we'll do is we'll go to the board, we'll make sure that everything's the same. Generally, the seller is responsible for documenting everything on here, and then they cross-check with the lab to make sure that fermentations are happening, that dry hops are happening, and that any fun added ingredients that go into the beer make it into the right tank.
One thing that you'll get to know about Wicked Weed is we really function as 2 very separate breweries, even though we are one big company. And this facility is nothing but clean beer. Clean beer would be like our IPAs, our barrel-aged non-sour beers like Dark Age or Old Fashioned, or some of our Belgian beers like Lunatic Blonde, or even our Gozas. This facility really came to light back in 2015. About 8 months before that, we were brewing all of the beer for distribution that Wicked Weed was doing out of our brew pub, which you guys saw is a 15-barrel system. It's pretty small, and we were pumping a lot of beer out of there, but man, it was tough. So we really got to a point where we needed to expand. We needed another brew house, and this facility kind of fell into our lap. We jumped on this facility because, well, one, it's 40,000 square feet originally, but it was a blank canvas for us. As we laid out this facility for growth, things really started to come together. We've got a 50-barrel brew house here. It's a gorgeous 4-vessel brew house. It's got touch screen controls, so everything is controlled as far as the brew day goes on the brew deck itself, which is really phenomenal. We've got 2 packaging lines here, our canning line, which we're putting a whole host of different products in, Lieutenant Dank, Napoleon of note, Lunatic Blonde, which we won a silver medal at the Great American Beer Fest for this last year. And then we've got our packaging line for bottles as well. And it's a beautiful Italian bottling line. It's not the fastest horse in the race, but it is a really high quality line, putting really, really low dissolved oxygen levels into the beer, which is key when it comes to making hoppy beer, because the less oxygen we have, the better the beer is going to taste long term for you guys, the better hop aroma and all that stuff. So This facility is going to enable us to continue to open up new markets like yours out there, and we continue to expand in it. We just this year finished up a 30,000 square foot addition, which is pretty wild. So this facility mainly being about all of our really hoppy beer, hoppy forward beer, you know, that makes up over 50% of our portfolio are hoppy beers. So obviously it takes a lot of hops to make those beers. And one thing that's really unique to this facility that you're not going to see in a lot of others is we actually have a hop freezer. The longer you can keep that hop frozen, the better it's going to taste in the beer. So for us, we invested in building out a 1,500 square foot freezer that's just storing our hops here at our production facility. Allows us to get some really, really amazingly fresh flavors, even though we are here on the East Coast. And all of that really came to light when we entered Pernicious IPA in the Great American Beer Festival in 2015 for the first time. But that year we actually did win silver medal for the American IPA, making us the first brewery east of the Mississippi to ever win a medal in that category. And I think that's a testament to not only the recipes that are in the beer, but the brewers that we have working here that are phenomenally talented, and also all of the things that we put into this building to make sure that the quality of beer was exceptional.
Our barrel program is right now at about 400, and we've got about 6 different brands. Our barrel-aged beers are aged for 8 to 10 months, from which point we'll send them back into stainless and send them through the rest of the process. Our core barrel-aged beers like Old Fashioned and Dark Age are going to be available more often than some of our seasonal barrel-aged beers like barrel-aged French Toast Stout, barrel-aged Milk and Cookies. The flavor profile that we get from the barrels is what we're after. Depending on the type of wood that we're using, type of barrel that we're using, we're going to get a lot of vanilla, a lot of bourbon, a lot of the spirit character from the barrels. Our barrel house is 10,000 square feet, and we're going to fill it with about 3,700 barrels over the course of the next couple years. We hope you enjoy what's coming down the pipeline. We've got lots of exciting beers for 2018.